Miguel Ángel y Pablo, dos monstruos también.
Miguel Ángel and Pablo, very attractive and seductive and intelligent people from Telefónica. There are many people of Telefónica around here, and that's great news when you talk about the area of crazy ideas, when you have the data and all these things. I work in many services from Telefónica. There's a Spanish telecom company like others. The fact is, I like Telefónica because these chats were selected by the call for papers. It's not like a selection by the sponsor. All the presentation here were selected by scores. So here we have the great speakers. So you have the floor.
Gracias por estar por aquí. Bueno, me presento. Yo soy Miguel Ángel de Castro.
So, my name is Miguel Ángel de Castro. I work in the NPAD, so what do I do there? For those who know me, you know that I don't like to work too much. I'm more prone to have fun, and I'm lucky enough to have a good time working in security and checking malware, and I can do that in Telefónica. I can have a good time there. There's always some party going on. Recently we had the WannaCry party. The fact is, it is a pleasure to work there and have fun and teach people. I have a few people who were my students. I hope you will enjoy the presentation. My name is Pablo Emeterio. I'm a university engineer, and I'm also lucky enough to work in Telefónica with colleagues of the dimension and quality of Miguel Ángel and others, and the good fortune to cooperate with them in several projects. I would also like to thank Rooted for organizing this event and for inviting me, as well as the volunteers who make this event possible.
This year I'm especially happy because I have contributed to the logo. These are the coins that I often distribute at the bootcamp of exploiting. We've been doing that for 2 to 3 years now, and as we have seen, we have participated in Romance Coin, or well, rather the Rooted coin. So now let us go into the presentation. From the title, you may have guessed that today we will be discussing email. Email nowadays continues to be one of the main vectors of infection. In the latest news, during the news, you will see that many attacks come from email, or whenever there is an attack, email is suspected to be the vector of it. So here we see a graph here, including different types of protocols, SMT, web browsing, and then IMAP. So if we were to add that, the difference would be even greater. So here, email offers two advantages. You either can use it in a massive manner at reaching out lots of recipients, or you may just target it at specific individuals. So email, well, I had a teacher who used to explain it in this fashion and said, well, perhaps the icon of this email is not the best because we tend to think that it is just a postcard, a card that you put in an envelope, whereas the postman can see who is the recipient and who is the person who sends it, well, in case the person who sends it signs it or writes down his name. And then what I get to see at the end, at the bottom of emails, is it says, well, if this email is not targeted at you, please do not read it, and if not, you will be severely punished and this and that. And, well, unless this is one of those chains that your boss sends out to you and you're not authorized to read, okay, that's the only time where this disclaimer is useful. Now, let us move on and tell you where our research started from. So, Pakistan. Pedro Pablo is now talking about interplanetary telco alliance, and once, out of the sudden, a colleague who was in Pakistan called us. He had received a number of calls from banks. I didn't know that there were banks in Pakistan. But anyway, they had been stolen $6 million. And then he said, well, I need some information. I need to give an answer to this man. And then, on that point, I asked him about the name of the bank. And looked up searched the domain of the bank, and lucky enough, I got this email. I found this email. Then I went through the email, I looked into it, I could see that it came in with a zip file. The email comes from the impacted or attacked bank, and then when we continue looking into it, we could see this Trojan admin, which is often used for this type of attacks. It is multi-platform, made in Java. The rejection rate was not very high, and when we played around with the sample of it, we could see that the IP, the domain that was being crashed down was live. Communication in the bank was still open, and this was very much likely to be related to the actual problem. Then we took it from there, and then we said how we can industrialize this, how we can automate it to find this type of things in a more of an automatic, massive, convenient manner. And for that, we set up MailMinsa. MailMinsa takes emails from different sources. We are members of CTA, Cyber Threat Alliance, and there we have repositories of malware and words and lots of crap and you name it. What we do there is that everything that gets to us, it goes through an automatic system. Then we ask whether it has been seen before, whether attachments have been seen before, are classified. Then we also send it to the sandbox of archive. And then we also use a technology that has been developed at our innovation laboratory of 11 paths. So this is a technology that applies machine learning on documents and PDFs. You send in the document, and this technology eliminates or removes personal details or elements that are not relevant for us to detect whether it is malicious or not. So we just don't mind about your personal data because your confidentiality is first and foremost. So these three technologies will help us detect attacks to find out where the origin of those attacks. And now we see the first results. We can make search per type of government, first devices with virus total, the emails that are being received, where is the country where this email was uploaded for the first time, whether it's been seen or not. So we have the typical graphs of virus total. The technology that detects it, the technology that did not detect it in the first place but were successful in detecting it later on, and then single rate of detection. We can do that. Well, in terms of the sandbox, we have some limitation in terms of the number of files that we could upload, but good enough. Okay, in the last weeks, they have extended the number of files that we could upload. Then in terms of countries, number of countries that are using total virus to detect malware. We see quite a strong trend here in the US, and then with the pay up APIs of total virus, we can see who is the person or the country or the entity that has detected the virus in the first place, or the attack in the first place. So this is a diary. Diary, you can consult the elements that you have uploaded or those that were in the diary. You can check out the macros, and then you can make searches and to see the relationship with any other file. If you see an indication in that file which is kind of outstanding, you can also see what is the level of relationship with other type of files. And those of you who would like to use diary, there is a programming API just in case you want to send in files and to make it automated. limited. So you have this diary.epaths.com. If you send in an email to lab@11paths.com and then you identify yourself as RootedX edition, they will give you the chance to try out the platform and for you to send in your samples. Some of these statistics here we have compiled in less than 4 months, 4,476,000 emails. We have found lots of windows, executables, and countries that are best in detecting those emails: France, the US, and Canada. So here, Spain is here at the bottom. This is a Spanish product, and we don't use it as much. I don't know why that is, because perhaps we just, I don't know, we just turn down a Spanish product, or just because we just don't like to pay. Other statistics, top topics, encrypted messages, and I like this one very much. Bitcoin, 10,000 euros every day. I don't know why I never, how can I hold the temptation of not opening up that email? So malware.txt, China, Chinese, language, and zip files, PDF files that will be detected more often than not as malware. So regarding subjects, top 20 from emails, and bottom 20 from. In statistics, I like to see both top and bottom, that is to say, the most and the least used. So these are the elements that are used only once, and these are often indicators tell us about targeted campaigns and campaigns that are not aimed at creating lots of noise. And then we also have the top 22 emails. Who is getting the most emails? Darwin is top position. And same, but bottom 22 emails. So that is email addresses, so people that have only received one email. So we also did a search about .es to see the companies that were using virus total the most for detection. We have banking, food industry, construction, other sectors, logistics. In general, the banking sector uses total virus to detect these malicious campaigns. And the same goes for two. So very interesting, when we did we draw these statistics, we could see that one of the consulting companies have received more than 75% of those emails. We will have to wait and see when that happened, but probably that was an event. So we really want to see whether that company had a big event, and that's why those emails were sent in over that period of time. The advantage of having this type of tool offering so many data is that you can make a search and you can narrow down the results by sector, classify them by sector. Banking receives less than 50% of the files with no threat, with total virus, and then the US and France. So, as I said, they were the countries that loaded the most files. And then we also have recipient to mails. You may go and say, Gmail, oh, this is not a bank. Well, Apple is becoming a bank, but Gmail is not a bank yet. But Gmail, it appears as a recipient of email that has been detected as malicious. Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Bulgaria. And now, from Western Union, they wanted to fake the front of Western Union. Then, these are the files. Word documents, PDF files are being used in the banking sector. So in the telecom sector, 75% of the emails are not detected through total virus. The API continues to be the same as the previous one, sends out a lot of info both in France and in the US. In terms of domains, again, Gmail shows up, but then recipients are more widely distributed. And regarding fronts, there are 4 key players or actors sending in messages to telecom companies. So here the level of maliciousness is much lower. In terms of public accounts, Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail accounts, over 50%, France and the US, the origin where most of the emails come from, and then the email accounts, Gmail, Outlook, Hotmail, and Yahoo have received the highest number of malicious email. Now this is share or distribution more widely. So not only Office as malicious, but also some Excel files, some PDF files. And now governments. Oh, thank you.
Bueno, había estado viendo un poquito a grandes rasgos a nivel estadístico, ¿no?
So, we've seen statistically what we found in different sectors. And we found it was very interesting to look into governments, because when you do research there, you will find very cool malware, more interesting and sophisticated campaigns. As you may see now, you will see now. So these statistics may look a bit boring, yet they are interesting. So we could go from the top levels of statistics from aggregate value to the greatest depth, as we will see in the emails, with analytics data, not only in terms of the volume, but the type of malware in it, who is detecting it and who is not detecting it. Why is that? Because at the end of the day, when you make hunting in this type of platform, when you are looking for threats, you are looking for singularities. So peaks and troughs. This is what you are looking for, kind of outliers. So we have seen that there are lots of email attacks. 531 emails that have ended up in public sources. We should not forget that we can gain access to the content of those emails, who is sent to, the content of the attachments. We are not talking about malware only, but information leaks and data leaks, which help us draw the profile of the company that wants to be attacked. So these are the main domains that have been attacked. These are the recipients. So this one suffered a significant campaign from the UK, and then this one also suffered a significant attack. Now, if we go back to countries, the UK and France are the winners in terms of emails to these public sources. And then here we see the users looking at total virus. This thing about users is very interesting, because it is not only you knowing who is launching that attack, but then you take it from there, and then you can play around with that specific user. So if a specific user is uploading to public source emails from government, and you can push a button, because this is an interactive platform. When you click on the user, you can really see everything that user has uploaded, whether it is a web account or an API, person is uploading government emails. Everything that you will find there for that specific user will be very interesting. At the end of the day, pivoting becomes really interesting. So these are 0 detections in total virus. 270 samples a priori did not come in with any malware. I'm saying a priori because this is interesting, because if I have to research and all that, I will have to see those that have had up until 1 to 4 detections, but I'm not going to take a look at those that have had like 40 detections. So if something has been missed, happens when there are 0, 2, or 3 detections, and that may also be caused by false positive. These are the ranges of detection. here we should pay careful attention to this one, these other ones, which have a low rate of detection. Type of files. As we've seen before, in Pablo's part, it is obvious that most of the attachments come in web files, PDF files, or zip files, and then the number of positives in total virus. These are zeros, these are 1. There are 82 here with 1 detection only. And then 3 detection. That's where you really want to look into. And now, bringing together all the analytics and all the data that we have the email hash, what total virus says about that email, we have the person who sends it as whole, as well as the content, the subject. We have analyzed it through total virus, through predictive systems, from Well5, from Palo Alto, and then we also know about the content of the malware, where it is connected to all this information that we get from the sandbox. When we bring it all together, starting off from the large-scale analytical data and going deeper down to here, we end up having these specific characteristics or unique characteristics, and we would like to share some of them with you today, because we have found something that if it is not brand new, it is nearly brand new because of the techniques that have been used and those who are attacked. We have found a malware that has been used to attack the Vietnam government. Everything starts off with an email that comes in with a zip attachment. So as you can see here, it was not analyzed through total virus, and this was just impossible for us to translate because we are not good at translating Vietnamese language. And then, well, here we see all these names and names of Civil Servants, and then it said at the end at your disposal or at your service. So these are the different civil servants, different civil servant functions. And everything starts off like that. And here we will see a high-level structure, how the behavior of this thread. When we decompressed the file, it simulated a doc, but actually it was a hyperlink. We analyzed the file and where it took us to, and this is what we found inside. What is that? Well, we have obfuscation, which is quite a very recent technique that was presented in the last Black Hat. As you can see, it is execution, quite obfuscated, and at the end of the day, all this is decoded in the memory, so it passes quite unnoticed, which is quite complex. They use environment variables. They also use these that says here, substring of the environment variables as well as loops. Can you see the loops? At the end of the day, they construct, they set up a command. And what was that? Well, something that was executed in PowerShell. The PowerShell vomited and executed a window script that at the end of the day it extracted 3 files, a decode file for you to see, oh, it's a Word document, then a legit installer.net to bypass the uplooker protections, and then a .NET that had a cobalt in the memory. 2, obfuscation, file carving, fileless, PowerShell, uplooker, bypass, plus cobalt. This is not any person behind it. This is very well built. When you focus on attacks carried out to government, you end up finding interesting things such as this one. This is how we decoded this very first part. Through file carving, so it goes to here. So this is the tag which is extracted. IEX comes here and extracts all that. This is a PowerShell that we will be putting here in the memory and to be later executed. When executed, we may find this here at the bottom. We see the execution here, execution of the PowerShell. All these comes from here, okay? And within that script file, we find interesting things. So the three files that we told you before, that were vomited or returned in different ways, this is how this .NET file was extracted. Later on, we'll tell you what they did with it. And then we could also see how what they do with the legit .NET tool to assemble .NET elements. More about the script. So here we see persistence. This is a program task. It tries to do it in different ways. If it cannot do it one way, it tries it a different way. So this is the file that was generated, the PowerShell, and I just would like to stop here to tell you more about it. This is interesting. There have been already some publications about it. Notice this. They take this installer and say log file nothing, so that does nothing, but then -u, /u disinstalls the app. When I first saw it, I said, what does it really make sense? Well, it doesn't really make sense to execute a malware telling it to uninstall it. So this is the malware, the .NET malware that was vomited or delivered. So at the end of the day, through a legit installer, it executes anything that is being used to bypass AppLocker. You know that there are several techniques and they are all based on the same thing. That is to say, to use an exec file or whitelist of window, which is good one, well-known one, so that there is no problems. We've seen that with root, DLL, and many different ways to do that. What interesting here is that this technique has been seen around. It is quite recent, but it is much linked now with. So we've never seen it linked to or using .NET. Actually, we've tried to find out whether there were something like this, but we didn't find anything similar. So it is quite a novelty. This is the .NET that will be executed through the /u that I showed you before, and then what it has in it is this payload, which is just base 64. I'll show you now what it does. So it gets that base 64, and then does memory space allocation, gets the log, brings it over here, and then creates a thread that is executed in the memory. What was interesting bit here, if you take a look at this process, this is the exec. But how come was this executed? If it was, the command was to uninstall it, but they have created a function which was an install that was being exported. So when a query was made, this .NET is a DLL. When you call a DLL, you give it the function you want to start with. It was asking it to install, and install at the end of the day executes the payload. We've seen similar things, but we've never seen anything like this before. Decoding this payload, well, make look simple. You can say, well, base 64, you decode it, then you add binary, and that's it. No, but it was not as simple as that. It was used in the byte array, and this was not thought to include it in a file, but to send it right away to the memory. For that, we have to write a script to process it so that it would end up in a binary and to play around with it. Then when we started, it was live. It was live, up and running. And then if we take a look at the communication parameters, I'm sure you are aware of this. This is Cobalt. Very easy to detect it. When you find other things, and also reversing it is really crazy because of the DNS in the memory that will be used, then it will download another file. So reversing Cobalt or reversing this sample is quite complicated. And then we said, let us see if we have found something which is actually good or not. Well, this is singular. Yes, it was kind of unique because there were only few links with that IP. So the only links with the IP were previous attempts, but much less sophisticated. So this an NLAK file was being used, and this is not processed by a sandbox. So they are already bypassing first scanning. And as you've seen before, Total Virus had not detected it either, because in this case with the machine learning diary, we analyzed macro, but in this case there was no macro. So at the end of the day, singularity. So in the end they say, why is this all failing? Let us find the reason why. Okay, good. Now we move on to conclusions. Okay, through the hunting platform, we can just go deeper and deeper and reach out or get to some samples of actors that are relevant. Well, this bug continues to be active. I don't know for how long it will continue to be active. And then the recipient was members of the Vietnam government. Conclusions. Email continues to be nowadays one of the main vectors of attack and vectors of entry for all the organizations, including government. So many of the emails that we may find in open sources are processed and can also be the sources for information or data leak. They are accessible to anyone, and if someone sends in the password to another person through email, it's very easy to steal. Also, there is another technique to pass a notice is to encrypt the macro. So this mechanism allows you to bypass many systems. The variety of malware that we have found in several emails have been quite wide and quite prevalent as well. And then the techniques that we have detected have been also new as well as wide range. So zipped attached attachments with password. And once I remember when I talked to Sergio and I said, Sergio, well, this has not been detected after we give it over to him. And he said, well, you didn't take a look at the Total Virus. It is an exploit from 2017. And I said, well, sorry, I didn't know that. And bypass of ape locker. Attackers are devoting quite a lot of time and effort to pass a notice rather than devoting time to developing new malware. The infrastructure and the way of placing or sending in the malware to the recipient is aimed at it passing a notice to detection system and to network systems. We feel that endpoint is becoming more and more relevant and more important because of this type of current situation. Acknowledgements. I would like to thank Eduardo and Monica. On Monday, they were playing around with the program. Well, you know that from 6 to 8, I go to Capital Radio. I would like to thank them for them. All right.
Okay, I didn't want to finish without acknowledging many people who helped us in this presentation, starting by the Diario team, who worked really hard to have our platform 100%. The Innovation Lab of Malaga with Sergio, what I call my toy factory. They do things for me to have fun. With Jose Antonio, thank you, and also to Sergio. The big fish and the event pack. We also had people who helped us a lot: Jose Mozano, Alejandro, Luismi, people who have helped us for this to become a reality. And even though it isn't crucial, we have, or rather secondary, I would like to thank particularly to Dani Fuertes, because he is one of his colleagues with whom we like to go and have some fun with these toys. So, thank all of you. I hope this was interesting for you.
chulo, muy chulo. Sabéis que para las preguntas tenéis que poneros en los micrófonos. Obviamente APT, ¿no? Lo de Vietnam.
Yeah, the Vietnam thing.
¿Apuntáis algún actor?
Do you have any actors there singled out? Right now it's a bit difficult. The thing is that it is such a unique thing that when we started looking for how this happened, we found very little. When we have an APT, this happens a lot. But in the case of Vietnam, you can't really say anything because it can be just hypothetical, because maybe it's an NSA, a Chinese, or Russians. With this platform we can play a lot more, we can do many things and join the dots. For an analyst, this is important to join the dots. So from here we will continue to play with the indicators and with this TTP, which is quite unique, and let's see what happens. You will have a new sample of the style, so as my colleague said, it is difficult to make sure of this and see how this will work out. Anyway, questions. Don't be chickens. Get in the queue to make questions. I have another one for you. I saw there was text in Vietnamese. Did you consider to use an add-on for the tool that when you find text related to a TTP can make search in local media to find coincidences? That's a very good idea. We hadn't thought of it. Within the bodies, what we look are other types of attack. It's more like phishing kind of thing. You look name of banks, companies, and you look for it within the bodies. And we got a lot of phishing there, but we hadn't really thought of adding this plugin. Previous campaign or associations. I want my royalties, actually. Any questions? Come on. This is a very interesting presentation. Now Chema will call you to tell you how much you have to pay me. Let's see how it works out. Okay, two things. One, how did you obtain those emails? Did you pick them out through an app? Because when I upload a file to Total Virus, the subscribers can read it. Second, is this service going to be offered to the public through payment to send files, scan it, etc.? Okay, the question one, everything that you upload to Virus Total can be seen, and they can get information from that. We also have particular information sources from the CTA of Telefónica, and we look in the boxes to find things. And for the second, I'm sorry. This that you told us about will be a product where you can subscribe. You have one of the parts that is public, and we will see how we fit this in the cyber intelligence services of Telefónica. We already have clients for our cyber service, and this will be another engine that will help us to detect more phishing, possible malware, information leaks, things that end up in public source. And we haven't focused very much on the email because it's a very good field, but in the beginning of the presentation, we used email functionalities not only for email. There were many Windows 32s. So we will continue to work and analyze, and this is something that we will most likely make available to our clients in the future. Thank you very much. If you don't want to expose yourself to the world, you don't have to upload all the files, just the hash. So you can seed teasers to identify actors. You can select a list of targets from a large database, and you throw a sort of a you throw a bone to see if they if they pick it up. Yes, there's part of the consultant that sent many emails in a short period of time. It is like 75% vis-a-vis the rest of .s entities. So we can do many things. We just brought one use case of everything that you can embed, but you have seen that the possibilities of embedding are amazing. Last question. No, you can't. Yeah. Talking about add-ons. To make an extension for browsers that could check. Well, this is a question related to Diario. With Diario, you not only have the API and the website to upload things, you have a plugin that you can use to decide if you want to send a macro, because you don't send the file. That's why we like the idea of Diario, because not missing confidentiality, you're not infringing it. You're not sending all the files like in VirusTotal. You just send the macro. So here we have a part with where there's a computer document to collect the macro. So this is only for the machine learning. You've seen that the percentage of PDFs and computer files, that 80–90% of everything that is attached to emails. Okay, so congratulations, spectacular presentation. Thank you very much.